Hello, everyone, and then thanks for joining us in our new episode of Dr. Data Science in 2023. Today we have Tomáš, elite data scientist, with us in TIPCO, and he's going to talk about using data functions and objects that created in Statistica and utilizing them in Spotfire. Thank you for being with us, Tomáš, and the stage is yours.
Atir, thank you for inviting me. Okay, so what we will be showing today. So I would like to show you and convince you that the integration between Statistica, which is one of the TIPCO data science tools, is very nicely integrated with Spotfire, maybe even closer than you think. So I will try to convince you about this.
Okay.
So, the first thing, maybe I will do a short introduction to Statistica, only to show you that like what it is. So in general, it's in fact platform where you can do your whole analytical process, from like loading the data from various data sources, doing data preparation steps, classical statistics, multivariate statistics, and a lot of other things, and then also machine learning algorithms. And in the end, when you have model, you can simply also inside that tool deploy it and schedule it on the scheduled basis, and simply it's bringing back the results automatically. The typical way how the user will work in Statistica is through this let's say canvas type work. This object is called workspace. So at the beginning, typically you have a block which is the data. We have here some data with continuous variables, and then each block in this workflow is kind of doing some logical, some analytics, some steps. So this one here is doing correlation. So of course you can define these blocks with a lot of details and settings and these things. And when you have it, you will simply run it, and you have some results after that block, which is here.
So it's an no-code environment that you can basically just drag and drop objects and then just connect them and reconfigure the nodes.
Yeah, it's really easy. Like if I will pick here correlation matrix, I will have it, and I can work with it. So in fact, you do not need coding. And what this example is doing, I'm doing various types of correlations, like different types, like Spearman, Pearson, and others. I will run all of that, and then I'm stacking it in the, let's say, like long format. So I have now the data which are in a bit different shape. I have correlations in one row, and let's say the 0 row is one parameter, and this row is another parameter. So I know the correlation, what was the variables, and then I'm doing some merging and things, and in the end I have a file which has in fact correlation, absolute correlation, and then for what parameters it was calculated, and of course the type of the correlation, right? So that's our example. Now how to use it, let's say, in other tools, right? So with Spotfire, Spotfire is a cool interactive tool where you can do drill downs and investigate your data interactively. And there is also a concept of data function, or not concept, it's a feature, a data function, right? So data function is in fact a mechanism where you can call additional other tools for calculating something. So for example, Python, there are, but also for example, Statistica. So typically when you press a button or trigger the data function in other ways, something is calculated under the hood in that other tool, and then results are brought back after we have this calculated. So you can see here, by coincidence, it's not coincidence, right? It's a correlation here because it's using, in fact, this example workflow, which is calculating from input data. So I'm sending, in fact, with this data function, I'm sending a different data set. then doing all this stuff which you have seen, and then these correlation pairs are brought back into Spotfire. So this is the correlation metrics. Here you can see that you can switch the different type of correlations, right? Because all of them were calculated in this data function. And then here you have these correlation pairs, right? So you can see what is the most correlated one. And in fact, when you have this nice Spotfire dashboard, you can create application from it. So you can see everything in one place. And the last thing down there is, okay, if I want to see how these look like, right, you can pick them here from the drop down, and you will see these two against each other, and like why we have that large correlation, which here makes sense, right?
And in order to trigger the function, the Statistica function from Spotfire, you don't need to have, for example, the Statistica instance like open or something. This is like it acts as the Statistica engine. Without like the need to have the instance open, right?
There are more ways, and one of it's here in the settings. So there are more ways. One is that you have some local engine, which I have, what is installed. So in fact, it's triggering the installation which you have on this same machine, because I'm using Analyst. Then you can have embedded, which is what you were mentioning. So in fact, you do not need any installation. It's extension for Spotfire, and it's running kind of container, but it's not container, but it's running it directly in Spotfire. And then you can have here, I do not have a server defined like configured, but you can even run a Spotfire server on which the Statistica engine could run.
Got it.
But to be honest, the next examples which I will show you will not work with these embedded things, because we want to use also some other objects from Statistica, not only this, because this is, let's say, the classical type of using of data function, where you are in fact extending the features of Spotfire by incorporating some features from other tool. That's, let's say, a typical example. Of course, very useful when you have tool like Statistica with hundreds of different algorithms, so you can leverage them through this concept. And if you want to learn this, there are 2 pages on our, or let's say 2 main pages. One is what it is, the data function, and then if you want to learn, I think this is a very good page with several examples which you can download. So I can promise you that if you go through these examples, you will know exactly how to configure your Statistica data function.
Good. I'll make sure to put the links to these pages in the description. Yeah, that's great.
So this was the first example I had, and let's say I suppose it's clear, because it's a bit typical thing. And now I want to show you something which is maybe not that obvious at the first time, but you can do very nice tricks with data functions and also Statistica objects, because in fact in Statistica, this is a client of Statistica, but you can do your analysis there. But there exists also something like let's say shared meta repository. If you have a server installation, you will have your Statistica server, and on that you will have a lot of you can save your work, you can save your workflows and other things, and you can share it with others. So what I can see here on the right is in fact my tree, which I have permissions for these objects, and I can see them. So in fact, for example, I can retrieve the data, right, only by clicking there. And this is some object which was defined maybe by somebody else. It's a query to the database, and I have directly my table back.
Right? So these objects, these are basically views to like a database, or these are like a final, the final model after creating the data.
Yeah, so you can have in your meta. This is only manager where you can create these metadata objects. So the first thing you will typically create is a database connection. So somebody typically from IT will define that, okay, your database is SQL Server and you are connecting to this in that way. So this is this gray object. And you can have, by the way, also TDV as one of the data sources. So you have even more data sources here. And when you have this object defined, this database connection, you are defining afterwards these objects, these orange objects, which are in fact like queries. So you are picking the connection, which is this gray object, and then you are defining queries. So here in edit, you can define your query. Here we are like taking full table, right? But you can define your query, and this object, based on the permissions, are available for other users of this platform, right? So that's one way. And then of course you can save PMML models into that meta repository. You can save these workspaces as well, these workflows. So in fact, after that, the other users can try to run it or open it if they have permissions to see this object, right? So all of that, some shared repository, like in Spotfire, it will be library. Here it's this meta repository called enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And now how to leverage it. so if you I will show you the next dashboard, or it's not that much dashboard, but if you create if you get this is the list of, or let's say paths in my meta repository for different data sources. So this one is about getting the data sources, like defined one from Statistica, from the meta repository. So imagine you are using Spotfire for first time. You will open this dashboard and you have right away all the data sources available from Statistica.
Yeah.
So you can also do some, like maybe I will find the one which we have seen before. Credit scoring DB, maybe. Right, I will highlight this, and this list. Yeah, this list should be like, you need to create this list of data you want to see. So you need to have these paths. In this particular dashboard, there is also on the first page some set of steps how you almost automatically get the list of all these data sources. So it's not that hard. And then you will pick one of these data sources. You will quick query data, and now we have our clever data function, which is in fact bringing back a new data source, new data. Right. This is the data some query defined in Statistica. And only to have some fun, I will show you.
This is great. So you're basically querying, or like you're running queries against Statistica objects from Spotfire here, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I will show you how this data function look like. So it's this one node, and in fact inside there is a path to our meta repository. So in fact, I'm using let's say I'm sending a parameter. I'm not sending the input data through this data function. I'm only sending this parameter. So the path is, in fact, if I browse, I can see my directory and everything. So if I know the path, I can simply run this data function, and I have any data which I want. All right. So that was this one. And then I have another one, which is even more powerful, which is doing, or not, it's additional to this. So imagine you have in your meta repository also these workflows, these pipelines, right? And for defining some result in some pipeline, you need to know the path, and then you need to know what is the output result, right? Okay. So if you will create these two, in fact, it's sufficient to have your table with two inputs. One is the path, where the workflow is located, and then the node or the functionality from which you want to have output. So if I click on this one, and here again I'm triggering a data function here, right? And it's calculating. There is some report that okay, it start run and everything, and I have here the output, right? So for this, I can show you, for example, the workspace I have triggered. So it's this very simple workspace. Here is descriptive statistics. Here is merge variables. So if I look at this, it's merge variables, and from here, merge variables is this one. So I will trigger it, and I should have the same output as in Statistica, right? And I can, as you have seen, I called the workspace from the disk. So in that case, I have this, let's say, naming convention. If I'm triggering it from enterprise, it means this shared meta repository, I will have it in that form to distinguish what is what. And then if I trigger this, I will get again different data. And this one is much more complex. Pharma workflows are always complex. So this is much more.
So basically, you can create like any type of complex pipeline in Statistica, and then you can just specify the input parameters to it from Spotfire, and you trigger it. Because I think that can be a very good use case for one of the dashboards I have in oil and gas. For example, if we have a list of wells, and then we want to do, for example, a production forecast for a specific well, but like we have a complex pipeline for that implemented in Statistica. I think, and I mean, by what you're saying here, we can basically just like select any of the wells, and then we trigger the pipeline, and then we'll spit back the forecast for the production, and maybe like for the next 2 months, right?
Yeah, but this one is particularly not, let's say, sending any information from Spotfire concerning the data. It's only doing some analysis which is already defined in Statistica. But we can chain these data functions together.
No,
but
actually, the use case I have, the data lives somewhere in a Postgres
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's true, because it's already defined why you will be sending something big from Spotfire. I think the typical use case of this one would be you will go in your analysis in Spotfire into some stage, and then based on the results you need to decide, I want to do this analysis or this analysis. And in that case, you will pick, and you have everything again. It's true that it will be dynamic in the way that what are the results, maybe not, it depends, right? But that's really cool. So in fact, all these three things which I have shown can be chained together. So you will grab any data from your meta repository, then you will do some analytics like correlation here, and then based on some results you want to do something additional, but you want to decide what to do. So that's this one.
Yeah, or maybe like you can run it through a cleansing pipeline, and then you use the result to like a prediction pipeline or something. Yeah, it opens a lot of possibilities. Yeah.
So and with several of these, if you have, of course, these are good or useful for the customers which have already Statistica installation and a lot of objects defined there. But if they have it, they can jumpstart into Spotfire so quickly, and they know all these results and these objects and these data sets, so they are not slowed down by like transferring the queries or creating special new data connections and these things.
And then
about validated environments and these things, right?
Exactly, and that will solve an issue I started seeing it a lot recently. I mean, people are kind of like doing a lot of analysis on big data in Spotfire. So, I mean, if you already have a Statistica instance in your workplace, then and your data sets are also like outside Spotfire, then you can just like trigger the calculation from Spotfire without the need to move these big data sets in and out of Spotfire.
Yeah, and typically maybe you will want in Spotfire only the relevant data, the clean data. So
Exactly.
you will use some pipeline or some and also these queries, right? If you will do it again here, maybe it will be not optimal. So it's better like in this meta repository, if somebody from IT created it in some optimal way already, then why to not use it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Great.
Okay, and I have one more example. If we have time for that.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah, we do have that.
cool. So Statistica is I have shown that we have these objects which can be shared, but there is also, let's say, on the server there is a special functionality for monitoring and alerting. So I'll try to explain a bit. If I load or log into to Statistica server, and if I have monitoring alerting server as well, I will have the option to see alarm dashboards, and I will show you maybe the biggest one. So you can see I have several of these dashboards there. Each of these objects is some dashboard, and if I go to main dashboard here, for example, because that's the biggest one in this particular installation, so I can see some red green tiles and some logic here. So how it is working in your Statistica meta repository, you are creating these objects which are some kind of simple dashboards. I will call them MAS dashboards or monitoring alerting dashboards, to not confuse with Spotfire. And each tile here, in fact, has under the hood some analysis.
Okay.
And every of these, in fact, are running under the hood some scheduled tasks. So there is some gear icon, but it's defined how often this should run. So every tile can do something different, can run in different times, can do different analysis. And also there is a thing that if you have something red, maybe there is a display dashboard and maybe there is a run analysis. Run analysis means that there is some analysis under the hood, and display dashboard means that there is something wrong here with this process. But to know what it is, you need to drill down, and you have additional tiles.
Okay.
So in fact, it's like, okay, I have a problem in my factory there, and you are drilling down to, I don't know, to the production line, to the machine, and to the parameter, and you know what is the real
So
problem.
this is like these tiles, because I thought at the beginning, I thought these like every tile is one variable, but they're actually, it's a tree of, let's say, variable that can take you to the specific part of the operation or like part of the machine or the process that produces this alarm.
Exactly. And then like this is running continuously, and then somebody will get for example email if there is alarm, and they can go here and let's say switch to alarm detail view, I think, and here you can like acknowledge alarms that you can write acknowledge alarms, and then they will be not longer in this list, and in fact they're kind of solved. And if you have new alarm, you will see it. So there is in each of this type of platform or installation where there are monitoring parameters, or it could be like monitoring of anything. Typically it would be some quality control charts, but it could be also something else. Like if you have a data outside or not showing the proper values, then you can do alert, or you can monitor the probabilities or the quality of the model and these things.
Yeah, because I was about like to ask you about that. So you can like configure this to monitor the model performance. For example, to run like a model performance pipeline every, I don't know, maybe like every week, or like whenever you have an amount of data, new data available, and you can run your model. And maybe like gives you an alarm or email you if the performance fall beyond or like fall below an X threshold, right?
Yeah, that's true, and you can have under each tile the workflow, and in fact there is a functionality for that, which is, I believe, alarm trigger. So if you have this, it's defined to like you are defining here what type of, let's say, violations will be visible in this monitoring alerting system. And now the data function for that. So this one is not published yet, but it will be published very soon. It's almost finished. It's our what we are playing with now. So if I click a button, in fact, it's going to my monitoring alerting server and grabbing the information about all the dashboards I have in my system. I do not need to specify anything. What I need is, of course, to have this data function, to have access to my meta repository, which means I need to have installed Statistica, or I need to run it from Spotfire through a Spotfire server. So here is this large main dashboard, and we can see here, let's say, how many alarms we have in various dashboards. This is in fact kind of all the dashboards we have in this tree, which I have shown on the web. And then you can drill down and do some tricks. Here, I did not mention, but sometimes you can have in these tiles a yellow tile, which means something is not working anymore. Like your data are not connected, or some simply it was not possible to do analysis because something is wrong. So these are also important, and you can see in what dashboards, these monitoring alerting dashboards, you have this problem.
So basically, this is a whole interface to your MAS dashboard in Statistica. So let's say if you want the user to be like stationed in Spotfire only, you don't want them like to go back and forth between Statistica and Spotfire. They can basically view everything regarding like the alarming and all the warning signs from Statistica and Spotfire, and they can also like update or maybe like take an action, run a specific pipeline according to like the warning message that they get.
Yes. So I picked this large dashboard, and I can see I created this one in Spotfire to be exactly the same. Maybe we can pick a better visualization, but to show you that it's really the same, this dashboard is the same as the one we have seen, this main one, right? So it's the same. It has the same tiles, same colors, and then if it's dashboard here, we can drill down, and in the bottom we should see what is under the hood of this dashboard tile. In fact, so really it's a copy of all the dashboards. So on the previous page, it's even more, because in Statistica itself you do not have the full view. And here in Spotfire, when we loaded everything, we can see it. So this is let's say the copy, and you can, without switching the tools, you can see what alarms you have. And of course, with combination with the other data functions, maybe you know, okay, it's this parameter, so you will run some quality control chart for this one, maybe, I don't know, right? So that's how it is working, and there is only one thing, but there exists already a data function. It's only that it's not published, and it's developed by partner, but it's not that hard also to do a data function which will automatically acknowledge these alarms. So that's the last piece, which in fact is closing the loop, and you really do not need to jump into Statistica server at all.
So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you mean to automatically acknowledge the let's say the green status?
No, you are acknowledging typically these alarms.
Okay.
Because and then if you do it, then if you like refresh, there will be not longer red. So here it doesn't make sense. Like here it's crazy. Like you have thousands of alarms.
You need to go through all of them and count them one by one.
Simply nobody is taking care about this environment, right? But in normal situation, or it's not set up properly, because you can also define monitoring alerting server in the way that only, let's say, the alarms from last week will be visible or something like that. Okay, so that was what I wanted to show you.
Great. Well, that looks interesting, and then I can already relate to a couple of use cases I have in oil and gas, especially when we have like multiple. Let's say we need like to do multiple calculations for specific elements from the same database, and also for this drill down, we have a very similar application also in oil and gas, where you basically categorize your assets in a hierarchical format. And then sometimes, for example, you have an alarm that coming from facility A, but it's coming from facility A, pump B, maybe ball bearing C. So it's exactly like you're showing here. And then we have we have the data already. I think if we manage to somehow, So if we manage somehow to maybe utilize that hierarchy in Statistica, or we're just sharing the ideas here for the customers who already have Statistica and Spotfire, you can use Statistica to basically utilize the asset framework and then show the alarms even better.
Yeah, why not?
Well, thank you so much for your time, Thomas. That was interesting subject. Thanks all for tuning in, and then wait us every month on third Wednesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.